So organics was, a booming industry. Then about 10 years ago, some of us started to realize that organics, as defined by organic standards, U.S. Department of Agriculture, weren't good enough. We had some big problems in the world that were starting to be obvious. I started writing about the climate crisis probably 15 years ago. And a lot of people weren't that interested at the time. The food movement in general didn't talk about the climate crisis very much. And in turn, the climate activist movement didn't talk about food and farming. And so we went along for 6 or 8 years like that. There was a little more discussion of how, well, what is causing this global warming and the climate instability, the weird weather, the violent weather, the extended droughts or flooding and so on. And what the situation is we got too much carbon in the atmosphere and too little carbon in our soils, in our grasses, in our trees, and our plants. Why is this the situation? Well, yeah, we've burned fossil fuels like there's no tomorrow ever since the Industrial Revolution. It really speeded up since about 1850. But something else has been happening for a long time, which is that we've been destructively, we've been destroying our farmlands and our forests. We've whacked down. We used to have 6 trillion trees on the earth. We whacked half of them down. We used to have a lot of pretty fertile topsoil, but we plowed a lot of that away. A lot of it got eroded. And so basically what happened since 1850 was, a lot of this excess carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere came from the Industrial Revolution and burning fossil fuels. But the other half came from releasing the carbon that was in our soils and in our trees, in our plants, and that went up into the atmosphere as well. And then with the advent of modern industrial agriculture, you had a couple of other greenhouse gases that used to be at fairly low levels in the atmosphere, but are now growing. And they're much more potent at heat trapping than even carbon dioxide. Oh, and those are methane and nitrous oxide. And those are a direct relationship from changing from a natural form of farming and raising animals to this industrialized system that began to gain momentum after the Second World War. Basically, if you graze animals naturally, if they're herbivores eating grass on the land, if you raise animals on outdoors and pasture the way my grandparents and many generations did before that, and the way most organic farmers do today, you keep the methane in balance. There's bacteria called methanotropic bacteria that actually eat the methane that the animals burp out. If you have healthy soil, if you have animals outdoors, natural, exercising their natural behavior rather than cooped up in a feedlot or in a factory farm. Nitrous oxide, which is even more potent than methane, a lot of that comes from using chemical fertilizers instead of using natural manures and green manures the way farmers did for thousands of years. So we got a big problem on our hands where, if we looked at the damage done to the environment, the pesticides in the water, the fertilizers in the water, you look at a state like Iowa where, you can't even swim in most of the lakes in the state or the rivers. A place where I live part of the year, Minnesota, Yeah, we're known for 5,000 lakes, but half of those lakes you can't swim in them anymore in the southern part of the state because of the pollution from corporate agribusiness. So meanwhile, while we're destroying the earth and burning fossil fuels like there's no tomorrow, public health starts to change. You had, at the end of the Second World War, we didn't have the epidemic of chronic disease and immune disorders that we have now. I mean, right now in the United States and several other industrialized countries, or most of them, chronic disease is an epidemic, and people are, over half of the population are afflicted with one or more of these diseases. Then when you look more closely, most of these diseases are diet related, or else they're related to living in a polluted environment and living in a very stressful society. So our physical and mental health chronic diseases have reached epidemic levels. And of course, everyone now is starting to realize these are directly related to the food we consume, to the purity or the pollution of the water we're drinking, to what we're breathing in and coming in contact with every day. So back to, as a group of us became more and more concerned in the organic food and farming movement about the climate, we realized that organic stand, even though it's good to have rules against using toxic chemicals in organic, that they hadn't gone far enough, that we're supposed to be concerned about the soil if we're organic farmers and if we're organic consumers, but we had somehow let that slip by.